It's the global formula with a bit of an Aussie twist, all based around some seriously cool GT3 machines. Good afternoon, everybody. We hope you're enjoying our coverage of the Shannon's Speed Series from the Bend in South Australia. We turn our attention now to the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. 1 hour of competition coming your way today. We will do the same again tomorrow. We'll run you through some of the regulations and take a look at some of the cool cars shortly. Firstly, good afternoon to my co-callers in both Richard Crail and Cam Vanderduggen for this one with the cars on track. Gentlemen, why don't we weave in one of the drivers? We will see pit stops for those with two driver entries, and we're delighted to be joined by a young man who hails from Tasmania but has raced on the international scene. Alex Perroni, are you enjoying your time back down under, and how have you found this series so far?
G'day, yeah, no, I'm loving being at home. Australia's the best country in the world, so it's so good to be here and also to be racing in this series. You know, it's super competitive. There's all the best drivers in Australia and even the world here, so, you know, you have to be at your best, and yeah, I'm loving every minute of it.
So, Alex, it was great to see you back here racing at Phillip Island not that long ago. It looks like you really started to come to grips pretty quickly with GT-style racing. Do you ever miss the open wheelers, though, mate? Because you're building such an incredible career there as well. Sorry,
mate, I couldn't really hear you there. All the cars just took off, but
I'll go back to it, Alex. I'll go back to it, mate. I can see the cars have just rolled out there as well. Just saying, welcome back to racing. Great to see you at Phillip Island. I actually got to interview a couple of times there. Loved watching your journey through Formula 3 as well. But really, your attention turns to these GT-style cars. This circuit, though, quite different to Phillip Island in a number of elements. The West Circuit, a bit more of a bull ring than Phillip Island, I guess. How have you gone getting yourself accustomed to this style of car at this type of circuit?
Yeah, like, it's a small track, as you said, and that kind of gives the impression that it's easier, but it's not really true, you know, because there's so little corners that you can't make a mistake and you really have to do a perfect lap every time. And we kind of found that out in quali. We didn't really get the setup right for the conditions, and we ended up a bit further back than we wanted. But again, that's something cool about the Australian circuit. You know, we have different tracks and, you know, a big flowing circuit like Phillip Island and a tighter one like this, so you really have to be on top of your game in all conditions.
Alex, you're racing for a local team in BRM, but with a local driver as well. How's the relationship with Mark Rosser and getting him up to speed alongside you in his Audi R8?
Yeah, it's going good. Mark's an awesome guy. We have a lot of fun together, and he's quick as well, which is cool. So I'm helping him as much as I can, and he also had a bit of a difficult quali, but we're positive and we feel like we can have a good race today.
Hey, we really appreciate you talking to us just before the racing gets underway. Alex, good luck, and thank you for spending a moment for our audience here on 7+.
Cool, thanks boys, appreciate it.
There he is, Alex Perroni, just 24 years of age and just one of the stars in this class of racing. I love the fact that we've added a bit of cachet. Cam talked about it. He's raced for Campos in Formula 3, connected with Indy Lights at 1.2, now back home racing down under.
Yeah, he's a superstar in the making, Rusty, and forged that pathway in open wheelers. Has now gone the GT route as we get set for a start. So this is round 2 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. These are some of the top sports cars in the world and some of the fastest drivers as well. Now, a lot of the AM drivers will start this race. The pros will jump in for the second half. Brad Schumacher will lead the field to green here with Garth Walden alongside in the Mercedes AMG. He's the top AM car. We're underway at the Bend. West Circuit racing for GT World Challenge for the first time. And it's Audi and Mercedes AMG, the drag race. Look at the second row. They're going to look 4 wide. Liam Talbot stuck the nose up in the Arise Racing Ferrari, but couldn't quite squeeze car number 1 down the inside. And it will be the vastly experienced Garth Walden who gets the Ram Motorsport GWR car stopped and turned at turn 1 and 2. Talbot was struggling for traction on the outside at 3, went in a little bit too hot. Peter Hackett looking to capitalise, but it's Walden Schumacher up to turn 5 for the first time.
Now, one of the Mercedes seems to be going slow, so we just need to keep a little bit of an eye on that. Was that someone drifting back through the field? If you are new to GT competition, up on the curbing, up on 2 wheels in the Ferrari, and is that the Leach Miles car having a little moment, not being able to get the car turned in the background there and perhaps losing a spot. There are compulsory pit stops here. We will work you through the mandatory stop times and give you a sense of when the window's open relative to the AMs and the pros. That's at a specific moment of time in this race.
There's a 10-minute window in this one to get the stops out the way. The AMs will stop first, then the pros. But what a feisty opening lap this has been from GT World Challenge Australia champion Liam Talbot, and around goes one of the new entries to the field this weekend. Nick McBride will be driving that car. It's a car that was on the podium at the Bathurst 12 Hour at the start of the season. That Audi has spun. Let's go back and unpick this down the inside. So ironically, it's Mark Rosser. We were talking to his co-driver at the start of the race. Mark went down the inside. That's the braking zone into turn 11, penultimate corner on this 3.4 kilometre bend west circuit. But just to finish that point, that opening lap from Liam Talbot, Cam, was really racy, but it showed how much of a critical point of this circuit this new turn 6 is. So that's the old turn 6. They turn left there to go to the international circuit. This is the short track. It's a bigger stop, it's a bigger, more aggressive braking zone, and it's a tighter and slower corner. All that does is open up the overtaking opportunities.
And I want to take you back, Kralsey, to Phillip Island. Liam Talbot, he will be frustrated with how that race ended for him on the Sunday. It was coming out of his pit box. I was standing right next to it. He overcooked it, went through the rev limiter, and then had to reset the engine on his way back out on track. We know how good a GT driver Liam Talbot is, but he would have been frustrated with himself at the end of, or how Phillip Island ended.
Yeah, and that was as well a part of the learning process with this brand new Ferrari 296 GT3. Speaking of Ferraris, their second car with West Aussie Elliott Shute behind the wheel gets it wrong at the final corner. It's pretty perilous there, because if you go too far off, the only place you're going to hit is the pit entry wall, or you'll get fired across the road to driver's right-hand side and hit the inside fence, and there's been a couple of big accidents there in the past.
One other thing I wanted to mention, and we'll stay on the Ferraris for a minute because we're watching Liam Talbot here. What Arise Racing is doing out of WA, the quality they're bringing into this category. I know Audi Custom Sport Racing has just almost been the benchmark of how to set up race operations, but I've really enjoyed what Arise is bringing to the battle as well. So a big shout out to the team out of West Australia.
And there's been a bit of paddock chatter already about potentially some more cars coming to that squad at some point down the road, which would be great. Just to touch on Steve Brooks, who was the driver in that bright orange and blue Audi R8. He was the one with contact on the opening lap. He has resumed right at the back of the field. Nick McBride will jump into that car for the second half of the race. Really experienced pair of hands.
Kiwi too, in Steve Brooks, who's been racing in the South Island Endurance Championship in New Zealand. Spent a bit of time with a good mate of Shane Van Gisbergen's in Andrew Waite, among others. So it's nice to see them coming over this side of the ditch and having a play. And I think that is just underscoring what they've done here with the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS, SRO Motorsports Group, the global leaders in GT racing, have representation in Australia now. It mirrors, doesn't it, what is offered worldwide. Little wonder it's lured someone like Brooks over here.
Same formats, same regulations, same technical specifications. These cars, to anywhere else in the world, you'll see a GT3 car racing. As we pick up Renee Gracie in the number 181 Audi R8. Had a gear sensor issue in this car yesterday and in qualifying this morning. So she qualified a little bit further down the field than where she would have expected to be.
She was really hard on herself last time we spoke to her on the 7 Plus coverage. Paul Stokell, who's driving with it, we all know his pedigree. For those that are new to this, Paul Stokell's a Gold Star winning driver. He has been phenomenal in anything he's been into, went into Targa racing, dominated there. He genuinely rates Renee as a driver. He said she's hard on herself. She should actually give herself a bit more of a break because she's doing a good job. And she actually was part of the reason he was invited to be part of this. He wanted to work with her to help her get her confidence back up and performance and results in this car.
This is a move on Ash Samadi too. Ash in the Melbourne Performance Centre Audi. He's another one who's been a real common feature of this style of competition for many years. He thrives on it. Back to the front we go.
It's Brad Schumacher under pressure from Elliott Shute.
Yeah.
So Elliott was the one who had that little moment on the exit of the final corner. The Ferrari gets the job done. So these teams will swap drivers halfway through the race. Jackson Evans will jump behind that number 8 Ferrari. Will Brown, Supercars racer, will jump behind the wheel of the Audi R8 Kelso electrical car for Melbourne Performance Centre and Audi Sport Customer Racing Australia. Garth Walden building a very nice lead early in this race. He'll jump over and hand that car to Mike Sheargold. So they're sort of came in a different race. Garth Walden and Mike Sheargold, they're an AM category, so 2 amateur level drivers. The Pro-Am class is generally referred to as the outright battle because you get the part-time, the gentleman driver, racing with a professional. So in the case of Liam Talbot, Chaz Mostert is going to drive that car, and it doesn't get much more pro than Chazzy. But that doesn't mean Garth Walton and Mike Sheargold cannot have a crack at winning this race outright. They absolutely can if the cards fall their way. They'll have a slightly shorter pit stop time than other cars around them due to the performance ballasting and the pit stop times from round 1 of the championship. And Mike Sheargold is a fast racing car driver, so he will be competitive. So they need to build track position now and hope that it pays off later in the race when Chaz Mostert, when Will Brown, when the superstars are behind the wheel of some very, very fast racing.
So what you're saying is he needs to just basically gap him as much and hold on for dear life when the pros get behind the wheel.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Silver and black Dale ITM entry, another Kiwi combination, supported by Deb Day, who's got, and their family, Deb's got a very senior role now with Motorsport New Zealand. Tim Miles and Brendan Leach on that Sunday at Phillip Island. Boy, it was an emotional result for them, wasn't it? Arguably one of Tim's best ever drives under maximum pressure and delivered.
I wouldn't even argue with you on that, Rusty. I would agree completely. It was his best drive in GT racing, and he was over the moon. He told me yesterday that he actually went back and watched the entire race. I was a bit stressed watching it back, to be honest with you, but it was such a great performance. He's getting a lot out of working with Brendan Leach too, not just from a coaching standpoint, because Brendan works with Tim to make him a faster and more complete racing car driver, but the fact that Tim is supporting a young guy like Brendan, who's still right in the peak of his career, is very, very cool. So that's a look back at the leaders. Just a little bit of word from Motorsport Australia Race Control. In fact, you can see it top right of screen. That's Mark Rosser heading to pit lane. That's not for a pit stop. That's for a drive-through penalty for that contact on the opening lap down at turn 11.
With the 88 that you detailed there before, Richard. So as we settle into a bit of a rhythm here, probably worth letting people know about the forthcoming pit stop window, established based on race start time. So for those people watching on the East Coast, we got underway just prior to 1 o'clock at about 57. So at around about 22 minutes past the hour, things will open officially for our AM, our trophy and our invitational races in this class.
And then they've got 5 minutes to service that stop, and then the pro cars can come in. But on a short lap as well, and it's worth pointing out, Phillip Island is, what, a minute 27, minute 28 in these cars. This is a minute 15. It is a short lap in the context of GT racing. The key today is to take your pit stop at the least risky possible moment, because if you go a lap down here, you're done. You are completely out of contention because it's a short lap, and you will lose a lap servicing a pit stop. So the minimum pit stop time is 85 seconds, which is a full lap of this place plus a little bit. But the cars that are carrying a little bit of penalty time for their pit stops, in the case of some cars, 15 seconds, you're going to go more than a full lap down. If you get caught out by a safety car, that's it. You're done. It's all over. You're circulating for points. So you need to be very careful here, perhaps more than any other venue we go to make sure you don't drop a lap in those pit stops when it all washes out at the end.
It sounds very much like you've written a script here, Krause. Nice to preempt there. Looking forward to it. But you know what I'm really enjoying watching, and I know this battle here has been raging throughout, but Paul Stokell has been setting purple after purple out on track at the moment. So Paul Stokell up into 8th in his Pro-Am entry. We saw him earlier, and that was just one of the drivers I saw on the move. Garth Walden also holds the fastest lap of the race so far. He's got a good gap. Is it enough? Well, we'll find out. We'll tell you in about 45 minutes' time.
Nice to see that that colour scheme that Adrian Dietz has almost made a trademark, to see that Huracan GT3 Evo 2 Lambo in the field, paired with Tony D'Alberto, run by Wall Racing. And they're a busy outfit because they'll be coming up a little later this afternoon in Supercheap Auto TCR. So Tony D, who's a champion of TCR, on double duty this weekend, and cool to see him back behind the wheel of the Lamborghini as well.
That's a brand new racing car to Australia as we see a move down the inside here at turn 1. It's such a good braking point and such a good overtaking opportunity. So Tim Miles executes that nicely. Milesy was telling me yesterday they had some quite serious ABS issues with that car. So to basically go into a safety mode whenever they'd smash the brake pedal to get the car stopped. And with the ABS in these cars, it's about 110 bar braking pressure. It's an enormous amount of effort to get them stopped. But the ABS problem meant that they were having to slow the car about 2 or 3 seconds earlier, perhaps into the braking zones for some corners. So it costing them somewhere in the vicinity of 8 or 9 tenths a second a lap in braking. It seems like they've got that sorted, because that was a really nice pass under brakes from Milesy.
Said to me last night that they were fairly confident they'd found a way, and it is exacerbated that in a couple of places around this short track, particularly down at turn 6 where it is a little bit bumpy, and it does affect how deep you can go on the braking.
Stokell on a charge again. We've just been watching through on Perez, and he's about to go through on Miles as well. Paul Stokell, he's ripping through the field up into the top 6 now. I think that must be 11 spots I think he's gained from the start.
He's such an accomplished driver, Paul, and one of the most amiable, decent people to go and have a chat with in the paddock as well.
Target Tasmania, all sorts,
yes.
You know, so yeah.
The stories from his Gold Star days in Formula Holden with Barana Racing are epic. I think officially holds the lap record still at Mallala Raceway, just up the road.
Now, you remember this.
I haven't finished yet, just
wait.
All right. Still holds the lap record there, but unofficially holds the lap record at Mallala as well, back when they were testing. So he is a bit of a guru. The stories are great. You may now continue.
But no,
thank you.
Do you two need a timeout? We've got 42 minutes to go. Okay, we can't have a blue in the commentary box. Okay.
Rusty's just wetting himself because this is pretty typical Kralsey and myself on any discussion. I was actually taking you back, Richard, because you consider yourself the keeper of all records in open wheel racing here in Australia. Formula Holden days, Rick Kelly comes back out, starts dominating everyone.
Yeah.
They turn up, I think it was Winton, put a Paul Stokell behind the wheel, and what happened?
Oh, it was fast. Absolutely.
Paul went and beat Rick Kelly early, and Rick Kelly was the Holden, everything behind him, and Paul Stokell had a couple of years out of the seat, came straight back in and did what he does best, and that's drive cars very fast.
Well, I did the same with another Gold Star champion who calls this part of the world home now as well. Simon Wills is exactly the same at Hidden Valley. Anyway, I'm glad we could have that little discussion, Cameron. I enjoyed that.
Nice to see in the myriad of makes that we have here, an Aston Martin, the KMB Motorsport entry, Valentino Astudi and Darren Curry running this car. Here's the Lamborghini we were talking about a little earlier.
Won its class at Bathurst at the start of the year, won its debut, Rusty, the silver class, and Adrian very, very proud of that car. So ran the original livery on his previous generation car, was based on the classic BASF sports car livery that was famous at Le Mans in World Sports Cars, but wanted to evolve it a little bit for the latest spec car. He said, well, we've got a brand new car, we need to update the livery, but we didn't want to go away from what all the fans loved. So he actually commissioned a street artist who's done a lot of public art in New South Wales throughout the city of Sydney, where Adrian hails from, and just upgraded the livery, and it looks tremendous. I think the only downside is he hasn't been able to get any support from a particular ice cream brand yet. But it's got to be on the cards, surely. So the company, you know who you are. I can put you in touch with Adrian. The only proviso, I think, is you supply the commentary team as well.
It wouldn't take much arm twisting. Fans of an ice cream in the commentary box.
I may well know some of the marketing department there.
Well, there we go.
Let's hook this up offline, shall we, Kralsey?
Little footnote to the story. I have a feeling, I don't know if I'm right, I have a feeling the old car that he ran has ended up in New Zealand, just across the ditch.
Right,
so
It's in your garage, isn't it?
No,
yes.
I wish.
More likely his next door neighbours, I think. It's a great car. Great to see the Lamborghini back as well. Adrian will run a partial GT World Challenge Australia campaign this year, so a couple of rounds. I think business commitments will keep him out of the next round, but he'll plan to be back for Sydney Motorsport Park later in the year.
Another driver I actually want to give a shout out to, because we were worried they may not have made this event. Remember that big moment at turn 12 with Ben Schutz at the wheel? Shane Woodman is at the wheel of that car right now, P17. When they got that car back to the garage, as we continue to watch this battle really rage out there right now, but big shout out, that car only had aesthetic damage, which I thought was unbelievable, Rusty.
Just getting word from Motorsport Australia Race Control. If you followed us since we kicked off our coverage here on 7 Plus this morning, there was a bit of a question mark over the race result in Trans Am. That has been looked into. It was Todd Hazelwood that crossed the line first, but there was a question mark over, as we see a bit of action going on here a pass under safety car conditions, and it's been swapped. It's been reversed in favour of James Moffat. More on that shortly. We're going to welcome a special guest to the coverage. Standing by in the lane with the headsets is another bright young star of Australian motorsport in Jayden Ojeda. Welcome, Jayden. Firstly, how are things going from your team's perspective so far in this race?
Yeah, it's not looking too bad. Paul started 9th and we're running about 9th, 10th at the moment. We'll take a 10-second success penalty from last round. So, yeah, looking to hopefully just have a good run when I jump in and see if we can move forward a few spots and maybe challenge for the top 5.
Juice Krause, good to see you, my friend. Are you enjoying working with Paul and continuing this progress in the Tigani Motorsports squad and developing him as a driver as well as enjoying yourself in one of these amazing cars?
Yeah, for sure. It's been awesome working with Paul. He's super committed. I mean, he's only probably a year into his car racing experience, so learning every single time he gets in and out of the car. So working with Tigani's been awesome as well. Awesome team, and for me, just the opportunity to drive a Merc week in, week out, has been really good for my driving and my development with GT racing.
We're conscious of the pit stop window approaching, so we don't want to hold you up too long here. Just quickly, where are you at from your career standpoint? How does the involvement in this series help that? Because it's really healthy this year, Jayden, isn't it?
Yeah, the Pro-Am category really took a step forward from last year. Like the competitiveness of the field, there's some really strong entries, so it's good. You know, you see the international guys, they come into this field and they don't make us look silly, so we must be doing something all right.
I reckon you're doing a pretty good job. Hey, go and enjoy the rest of the afternoon there at the Bend, and we hope it's a great weekend generally for you. Thank you for talking to us.
Thanks, boys. Have a good day.
There you go. And Krause affectionately calls him the Juice. That's the nickname, OJ.
Yeah.
Ojeda. So, I mean, we've talked about the likes of Astudi and others. I mean, there's lots of good young names in this class, in addition to the Chaz Mosterts and the Will Browns, isn't there?
And on his day, there is no doubt in my mind that if they're in an arm wrestle for the lead at the end of the race, Jayden Ojeda will 1,000,000% back himself to beat Chaz Mostert. and I have no doubt that on his day he could do the job. He is a spectacular young racing car driver, and I love seeing these kids. The open wheel pathway is fantastic, and it is awesome and inspiring to see people going to IndyCar or trying to get to Formula One. But the sports car model at the moment is so tempting, Cam, and it's so productive, and there's so much opportunity in sports car racing at the moment. I love seeing young guys like Jayden pursuing that pathway to go and have a crack maybe down the road at Le Mans or the big endurance races in Europe.
Krause, I've just been thinking that, looking at the drivers and their pedigree that came out of open wheel racing and how well it translates across to GT racing. I feel like we've had spits and spurts of attempts for GT racing to take, dominance here in Australia. The rise of GT4, which we saw at Phillip Island, I think was another reminder of just how good this GT spec racing is, and I'm really enjoying the battles. I feel like it's here now properly for good. We had moments of it with Nations Cup so many years ago where you and I were involved through those days, but then it's sort of been ever present. I feel like it's here on the Australian landscape now.
And backed in an administrative sense behind the scenes by some very good operators. I mean, you've got the CEO, of course, is the former TCR Australia category manager in Ben McMillan. There are others. We saw Stefan Rattel from SRO at Phillip Island for the opening round. So to have that level of support, that rubber stamp from the international body, pretty important.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the way that international GT racing is growing as well. In fact, it's appropriate to touch on the fact that round 2 of the Intercontinental GT Challenge is on this weekend, which doubles as the Nürburgring 24-hour, one of the more famous GT races in the world, and BMW on pole there. The Manthey EMA Porsche that won the Bathurst 12-hour qualified second with Lawrence Vanthoor. Matt Campbell's behind the wheel there. They're all drivers we've seen in Australia this year racing in top-level GT racing with the Bathurst 12-hour, which opens that Intercontinental Series. This is a great fight. Brooks' comeback has been very, very strong against that trophy class Aston Martin. It should be mandatory to have a V12 Aston in every GT3 race in the world. Shame we don't see enough of them. One of these cars was provisionally on pole for the 12-hour in 2019 for about 6 hours, but they got pinged. but a great car and a great sound. We're counting down to pit stops. We're not far away from that window opening for the AM drivers to be able to go in and take their stop. They've got 5 minutes to do it, so a minute 15 lap. You've got a 3, maybe 4 if it time's right lap window to get your stop in, and you do want to push it as long as you can if you're currently producing good lap times, like Garth Walden is on screen. Almost 8 seconds the margin over Liam Talbot. That won't help. Gives away a little bit of time on the exit of 6, but can afford to do that there.
Nearly every category we've seen today on 7 Plus has had a driver do that exact moment, and normally they're the race leader. We've seen that through a couple of categories today. So the gap now, he didn't lose too much. Looks like a couple of tenths a result of running long there at turn 6, but he is putting in some very fast lap times and continuing to do so. He'll be wanting more than 8 seconds, though, at the CPS Open.
Just like Richard had hard in the mouth there, I thought that might get awkward running into the next corner between those two, but play on. I think this has surprised. It is the West Circuit, the 3.4K layout, has genuinely surprised some people. Great from us from a TV perspective. It's like a little bit of a bull ring. Yes, we might be used to the 4.9, the longer version that we tend to have seen in the past, where you know, we saw the Super Cheap Auto TCR Decider, for example, back in 2019. But this has delivered so far. Pit lane open for the AM drivers.
I remember having a conversation a long time back with Sam Shikin, who's been the driving force behind this venue, way back when this thing was still being sketched out by bulldozers. He said, watch out for the West Circuit. We think it is going to be an underrated little gem. And during COVID, when supercars were trying to make up their calendar and get rounds in when state borderlines were closed, supercars did back-to-back rounds at this venue. And everyone watched the West Circuit and went, quite good, like it. So I love that we're experimenting. We've got different formats here. Let's utilise the different racetracks. I know some of the GT3 drivers were disappointed that they weren't on the international circuit because it's got 5 corners, which are all 200 k's an hour, and all the downforce and all the grip, and they all love that from a driving point of view. But if you can step back just a little bit and take the look from a sporting point of view from the show, I think this is great.
Well, the bit about it, you heard Alex Peroni off the top say this is a very technical circuit, this one we're talking about, and it's enjoyable. Bit of a move, no, just having a look down into turn 1. Don't want to hold up your race leader at the moment, Garth Walden. There he is on screen. And this battle just in front of him will be seeing blue flags. They'll need to get out of the way. They're chopping into his lead. 8.4 seconds the gap right now.
Well, Garth needs to consider pitting now to get himself out of traffic, because he'll start losing time getting caught up behind some of these lap runners. So that 8-second advantage that he's built, that he's going to carry over into this pit stop sequence when he puts Mike Sheargold in the car, could disappear very quickly. So Garth Walden Racing should be on the radio, I would imagine, to Garth and say, all right, time to pit, mate. Let's get in, get you out of traffic, put Mike in the car, and then get set up for the second half of the race.
So some activity there in the lane, because we are open, as we said before, for the AM and the trophy drivers. The pit stop window for those competitors is now available, and not too long. We're just keeping an eye on the clock at the moment. Won't be too long before the Pro-Am competitors can start to think about filing in to do theirs.
Another highlight, I think, of GT racing is how durable this Pirelli tyre they're on is. And we saw it at Phillip Island that late in the race they were still punching out almost lap record times. It's not overly warm here at the bend today, just on 15 degrees now. It was 2 degrees when the Porsches rolled out for their qualifying session at 7:30 this morning. So it's quite cool, little bit of a breeze across the circuit, but there is a bit of UV. So the tyre temperature is coming up in these cars. They are generating temperature and pressure, but this Pirelli just continues to get better and better and maintain its performance over the course of a run, which is great from an AM driver point of view, Cam, in these cars.
New team to this category, Black Wolf is their name. Ben Schutz is on board. We talked about it earlier. Big incident at turn 12.
Yeah.
And it was. I was speaking to Ben after that. He was sending me photos of the rebuild. They pulled it apart. The car was fine that night. They could have actually gone racing for the rest of that weekend, but Shane Woodman, who's the owner and has that car, which Ben has just finished his time behind the wheel, decided no. We'll put it away so we can come to the bend a little later. But great to see them back out on track, and a big shout out to the whole crew of that new team there at Black Wolf.
Yeah, on first investigation. That crash was, well, put the car in the bin, wasn't it? It was remarkable how they got that thing back. Sometimes they look worse than they really are. Walden goes around another lap. He will be in very, very soon. So the mandatory pit stop time at this venue, it changes from circuit to circuit depending on the length of the lap and especially the length of the pit lane. But here, 85 seconds. But there are pit stop penalties for prior success. You heard Jayden Ojeda talk about that. We saw the Honduras car in pit lane as a result of their strong weekend down at Phillip Island. They had an additional 5 seconds added to their time, so 90 seconds for them. But for Brendan Leach and for Tim Miles, who got that race win, they've got to cop an extra 15 seconds in their stop, which makes the job for Brendan all the harder in his stint in the second half of this race when he jumps in.
A little bit of kind of success penalty, if you will, that balances the field out. So there is the mandatory time that Richard's talked about and a compensation time depending upon results and things like that. So gearing up for the front-running operations to do theirs. That's not far away. How good are these Ferraris? They were tremendous at Phillip Island. Great addition to this class.
One thing I wanted to mention about those cars in particular, when I talked to the crew at Arise about these cars, as we're watching getting back out on track, they said that the tweaks you could make to them as Garth Walden, your race leader, comes into pits for his compulsory pit stop, they said it is open wheel spec in terms of millimetres make massive differences in these cars. So they are extremely responsive to very small changes as we now go open for the Pro-Am compulsory pit stop window.
Yeah, so I wonder if Walden just got in before the AM window closed. They've run a long way into that stint, but either way, he's in the lane now, and we'll hand over to Mike Sheargold. They've got an 85-second compulsory stop. They won't touch tyres. They don't need to change tyres, especially on this version of the track cam, because the international circuit, very hard on tyres, lots of long loaded fast corners like Phillip Island. This stop-go circuit, you don't use your rubber anywhere near as much.
It's still pretty heavy on the left-hand side though at this circuit.
Yeah, the drive tyre especially, punching out of those slow speed corners. I asked Garth yesterday, it said like turn 6 here, and he said, yeah, it's first gear, 60 k's an hour. They don't use first gear on any other corner in Australian GT racing.
Well, we gave up a left-hand hairpin for really a right-hand hairpin, didn't we, when we changed over seconds?
Yeah. It's a great corner. They actually use first gear for a bit of engine braking as well to help the car slow down, get them stopped down there to 60 k's an hour at the apex as Walden leaves the lane, or Mike Sheargold leaves the lane. So this is where we need to wait now. We need to get everyone shuffled through and the order will cleanse. And predictably, as soon as that Pro-Am window has opened, all of the AM drivers in a Pro-Am combo have rolled into pit lane. So Talbot's in, Peter Hackett in the 888 race engineering car is in, Elliot Shute in the second Ferrari is in as well. Tim Miles will hand over to Brendan Leach, Mark Rosser to Alex Peroni, Paul Lucitti to Jayden Ojeda, and so on. So they're all in the lane now getting service.
Chaz Mostert, that's one of the other names you were wanting to weave in there too. Yeah, so, I mean, it's star-studded field that will fight it out at the end of this one. Now, Richard question marked something before as the Miles Leach car, which was so good on the Sunday at Phillip Island. Brendan now at the wheel of that car. Brendan Leach, he leaves the lane here at the bend. Liam Talbot walks out of shot. Handed over to Chaz. They are looking into your question about the Walden car and whether it was in prior to the end of the AM window.
Yeah, my understanding is they're okay just.
Yeah, my read was they were just pulling up on their marks when the Pro-Am window opened. Yeah. So it was touch and go, but they've done well. The other one running long, Paul Stokell's going to run long into this one for Pro-Am, who currently leads. We see a massive traffic jam down into turn 1. And that's Paul Stokell I was referring to. He's your leader on track, but does have to hand over to Renee Gracie.
And that track position we were talking about, Mike Sheargold's come out in front of Chaz Mostert. Now, I don't know how long that'll last, but he got out in front. In fact, it lasted a corner because Chaz is already through in the Ferrari. But all that work that Walden did early has paid off, and it's kept that number 48 Ram Motorsport car, 45 Ram Motorsport, the GWI car, in the mix, and certainly leading the AM class into this second phase of the race. But through all of it, Declan Fraser, I think, is going to end up as the net leader here.
That was my exact thought. I was just looking at Declan Fraser going, wow, what a result there. So he took over from Peter Hackett. Peter Hackett did a great job to put that car into contention. So right now, the Mercedes AMG GT3, Triple Eight of Declan Fraser and Peter Hackett, looking strong. Chaz Mostert coming up behind them, though. Paul Stokell does have to hand that car over. And that is him pulling into pit lane right now. He'll hand over to Renee Gracie. And now Declan Fraser leads this race with 24 minutes remaining.
He's a guy that's been involved in recent years in the Triple Eight wildcard program. Paired with a guy that's been just a familiar face for Mercedes from a driver training and a racing perspective in this country for many, many years, Peter Hackett. Crikey, I can remember when he was in Formula 3. Here we go. So, tremendous job has been done by this guy to set this up. So Stokell trying to extricate himself from the car here. And Renee will jump aboard.
So they pit from the lead, and to show you how long the stop time is, the leaders just coming out of 6, 7 and 8 now. So there will be some undercut from those guys having stopped early, but that's been a huge drive from Paul. Very professional, elite level as you'd expect from a guy with that much success. And isn't it funny that with all the technology in the racing world, you can still time your stationary time in the lane with an iPhone?
Was it Hey Siri set timer?
Yeah, 85 seconds.
I've just set off everybody on. Did you notice that? Everyone's devices on. 7+ just went off. Sorry,
where's Renee going to rejoin here? Just ahead of, maybe not, just behind. So I thought she might get out behind Chaz Mostert, but in the end it's down in about 7th spot. Just verify that for you, whether it's Jackson Evans. In fact, behind Jackson Evans, it's 4th place, I beg your pardon. So, good job. With that work that Paul Stokell's done. Bit of pressure now for her to keep delivering that sort of pace in this second half of the race.
And this is a great test for Renee now to see what she can deliver against some really elite level drivers too.
And she's been thriving in this competition. She's thorough. She talked at Phillip Island about how much she's enjoying it. So,
I tell you what, thriving. Declan Fraser has built a margin over Chaz Mostert. It was 0.6 when it all shuffled out after their stops. He's got it to 1.2. So that Triple Eight Race Engineering Mercedes has got some pace.
So we heard the Audi was the car to have. They were all talking about it at Phillip Island. The Mercedes is looking like the car for the bend.
Well, on that, the Audi has traditionally always been a really good car through high-speed corners. Every year we go to Mount Panorama, whether it be for a GT World Challenge round or the 12-hour, Sector 2, which is the cut into the elbow, the Audi R8 is unbeatable. It is the fastest car through all the fast-flowing high-speed stuff. But point and squirt is Mercedes AMG territory. Big V8, rear drive, lots of traction, lots of torque. They get out of slow corners well. So I think a lot of the questions about this round and what variant of the bend they would run on probably came from the Audi team, because a lot of the strengths for the R8 were taken away a little bit by running to the West Circuit. But that's GT3 racing. That's what makes it so cool, is the strengths and weaknesses play out at different circuits wherever you go.
Margin is 1.5 seconds at the moment between Fraser and Mostert, first to second. Just quickly, some news during the week about the 12-hour, and you're really excited about next year, aren't you? 2025.
New date, yeah. February 2 will be the Australia's International Enduro, which has a great presence from all of these GT World Challenge Australia contenders. Can't wait. A lot of GT racing to get through before that. It's only round 2 of GT World Challenge Australia. So we now get this great battle between two guys who've raced head-to-head in supercars. Declan was at a different point of his career when he was a full-timer in the Supercars Championship relative to Chaz, but he now gets to show his stuff again. Then back to Jackson Evans. This is a good look at where everyone sits relative to everyone else. Evans third in the Ferrari. Schumacher shown in the Audi, but Will Brown should be the driver of that car. I'm sure they've tripped their driver trigger for the number 87 Audi R8 in front of Rene Gracie. Sheargold's settled back into 6th place, but crucially still leading their class. So still on top in the AM class battle. Brendan Leach is 7th and going extremely quickly and has just set the quickest lap of the race as well. But track position hasn't been kind to them with that extended pit stop time for the Dale ITM Audi. So Brendan, the Kiwi from the South Island, has got an enormous job to do. Marcel Zalua currently runs in 8th place. He's taken over from Sergio Perez, the Valmont racing car. Peroni next, and then we go back to Nick McBride, who's just climbed his way into the top 10 in that Audi R8 we saw had been shouldered off the road on the opening lap of the race.
6 outright, and leading our AM class, Mike Sheargold at the wheel of that machine at the moment. Great job by Garth Walden in the first part of this race. So this is a combination that we probably haven't focused on super closely while we've been talking about the likes of Mostert, Elliott Chute, Declan Fraser and others, but they are they know each other so well as mates, but the group of people around that car, little wonder they're in the position they're in at the moment.
Yeah, and GWR has been one of those, the little race team that can. They're based out of Sydney, not that far from Sydney Motorsport Park. They run a really professional operation. They run about half a dozen radicals in the Radical Cup Australia Championship. They run cars in Porsche Carrera Cup Australia, where they've won rounds recently with Dylan O'Keefe and their Pro-Am driver Dean Cook. Really professional program that Garth runs. He and Mike are mates. Mike's been through a lot over the last little battle, over the last couple of years with some cancer scares that he's been fighting through, and they've been doing an amazing job raising money for that as well, as Chaz works his way past the Canberra Superbarn AMG.
Yeah, that really helped Declan Fraser, didn't it? There was enough to take a bit of time out of it. It was down to 1.3 seconds. He lost just over half a second there, trying to get through on traffic. 17.5 minutes remaining.
Just keeping a little eye on the timing monitor too. The Kiwi, Brendan Leach, has been lighting it up. He's got the fastest lap of the race with a 1:15.38, but down in position 7 at the moment. So the Dale ITM Audi, winner on Sunday at Phillip Island. And we go to Mostert. There's the real gap for you. So there's your race leader, Declan Fraser, on screen now. You saw the Ferrari behind there just a moment ago. The margin's gone from 1.5 to just over 2 seconds. Fraser's doing a nice job here.
Yeah, that extra pit stop time has really hurt the Dale ITM Audi. But what they'll do is play themselves towards tomorrow's race. So the beauty of GT World Challenge Australia is, while it's 2 one-hour races, in a way, they're kind of linked together, because the driver that finishes this race starts race 2 tomorrow. So the pro drivers will be in at the start. So that'll be Brendan's opportunity to race the thing to the front. And then the pressure goes on to the AM drivers to bring it home. That's what we saw at the Island with that amazing drive from Tim Miles.
The funniest part was standing in the garage with all those pro drivers, not able to do anything about the result.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
In the end, they all got together and were standing shoulder to shoulder, having an enjoyable time watching some great racing. So I do love that part of it. The gap, Rusty, I know you mentioned it was over 2 seconds. That was a little bit traffic related, and it looks like Declan Fraser's making the most of it as he makes his way through that lap traffic.
We're conscious with just over 15 minutes remaining in this one. We're going to squeeze a quick break here on 7+. Come back with more live right after this from the bend.
So this battle will ebb and flow as they deal with the lap traffic and try and get themselves into a position to fight towards the end. How long can the Mercedes hang on? Or can Ferrari do it 2 rounds in a row in race 1? What a debut it was for Arise Racing in their GT program, and it was a pretty big milestone victory for Ferrari. It had been a long time between drinks for them winning a GT race on Australian soil, going all the way back to the Bathurst 12 Hour. They won in 2017 for Maranello Motorsport. So it was a big moment for the brand. The first time we've seen that 296 racing in Australian competition, but this has worked really nicely for Fraser. Now got a little buffer zone of 2 cars behind. And Jackson Evans, meanwhile, he's actually catching the 2 leaders while they're dealing with this traffic. So you can see the second of the Ferraris with the yellow front splitter. So you can tell the 2 cars apart, 1 green, 1 yellow, and Jackson is catching.
It's the challenge in this style of racing. When you're the first car on the scene, or even the first 2, the lapped traffic aren't used to it, they're not ready for it, but once they've been lapped, they're looking and more present for the blue flag. So often the car in third is the one that takes the most advantage of it, because more often than not, drivers have got their head down in their dash and mirrors. They don't look up and see blue flags. So it looks like Jackson Evans, as you mentioned, might be making the most of it, but he's still 6.7 seconds off the race lead. A lot of time to make up, but there's still just under 15 minutes remaining.
New fastest lap for Jayden Ojeda, who's down in 10th at the moment, a 1 minute 15.25. Hope you're enjoying our live coverage of the Shannon's Speed Series from the Bend in South Australia, the latest stop on our tour, which takes us all around the country pretty much, and we've got a huge afternoon still to come your way. We're only about halfway through it. Super Cheap Auto TCR to come, more Trans Am action, GT4. Blink and you'll miss it. It's got something for everybody, doesn't it?
It feels like that at this track. Krause, you told me before we even walked into the studio this morning, this track is going to punch, and it has been punching. It's like nowhere to breathe. You get a little bit down the main straight, then you have to worry because you've got cars passing everyone at turn one.
Yeah, there's rarely, even that straight, the long straight becomes even more critical here because it gives you less opportunity with a lot of corners in a pretty short lap to make moves, and especially to deal with the lap traffic. Having said that, the top three cars have all just set their quickest first sector of the race. They've now found a little bit of that clear track position. And now we'll get a little bit of a read where Fraser versus Mostert versus Evans really is in terms of raw pace.
Well done to Sam Sheehan and everybody at Shelby Power Raceway there. The place looks amazing, but it is dry there, Richard. We had a bit of rain yesterday, thankfully. Much needed rain, didn't we?
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, first rain in South Australia for 125 days. Of course, when the Shannon Speed Series comes to town, there's a bit of precipitation, but beautiful conditions at the moment.
Now, I'm kind of excited to do this, but I'm a little reluctant at the same time because we have Peter Hackett standing by to chat with us from the pit lane. Peter, good afternoon. Thank you for speaking with us. Positive right now, mate, but I guess you're keeping a little lid on that smile, are you?
Nah, I never keep a lid on the smile, Rusty. I think I heard you in the loudspeaker say you remember me from Formula 3, and I got to tell you, I'm not that old anymore, so don't worry about it. But, you know, Declan's doing a great job. He's super impressive as a youngster, you know. He's only driven this car twice before. We did one shakedown before Phillip Island. We went to Phillip Island, and to be honest, I struggled there. It's been a couple of years since I've been in the car, and I was a little disappointed, but I managed to step up and do some GT4 racing in Thailand. We had a win. I got some confidence back, and I got to tell you, it's great to be back in a car and towards the front.
So, Peter, it's Cameron Vanderduggen here. It's actually me talking about your Formula 3 career, mate. And I remember you down at Phillip Island those days, but I actually wanted to talk to you about your stint in this. Declan, there's not much you can do from here on out. You've handed the car over. Take us through your stint, mate, and just how much work you had to put in to put the car in this position.
Yeah, it was good, actually. We've been working on building a race car over the weekend. We got a little bit unlucky in qualifying when it came to traffic management, and in my session, a red flag. It was hectic out there. It actually didn't play out in the beginning like I thought. We thought Schumacher would race ahead and Liam and Garth would get their wings out. And I was a little bit surprised to see Garth run away, and then it was Schumacher and Talbot and myself. Liam and I, we go way back, so I knew kind of what to expect with Liam, and it was, I guess, a little fortunate for the two of us to see the Audi run off at the last corner. It was also interesting to see the strengths and weaknesses in the Ferrari, which I was trying to send back to pit lane for Declan to give him a bit of information. But, you know, I knew we had a small advantage in the pit stop over the Ferrari, so I wasn't going to get too desperate with Liam. He made a few more mistakes out there than I was expecting for somebody that has had so much seat time in a GT3 lately. So I was quietly licking my lips a couple of times, but I don't know, what is there, 10 minutes to go, and Declan's just got to keep being the pro that he is.
Hey, Pete Krause, just talk about this program you've got and you've put together with 888 Race Engineering. It's a really cool thing with a really cool team.
I tell you, it makes me feel like a 21-year-old again, driving for 888, Jamie Winkup and Brock Feeney's names on the trailer. Obviously, I had a small experience with them at Bathurst a few years ago, and you know, they're the benchmark in this industry, in motorsport industry in this part of the world. They're obviously the customer racing agent for AMG Motorsports in this part of the world. We managed to get some great backing from Romeo Software. It's a new startup company that really looks at excelling with performance in event management. So if you're an event company and you need some help in how that works, then Romeo, keep your eyes open. We haven't even launched yet, and that's coming. So to put Romeo together with 888 and Declan Fraser, who's been part of the 888 family for a long time, I feel at home already, and I'm really, really grateful to be back in an AMG GT3.
Nice work, mate. We've got 9 minutes remaining. He's, while we've been talking, chipped away to an advantage of now 2.4 seconds. We'll leave you to go and stress over the remaining 9 minutes. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
There you go. He's pretty happy right now, and as he should be too. All we've got to do is kind of keep those fingers crossed. Good people around him, and as Peter Hackett just described, they've assembled some really good components, and right now it's working for them here at the bend.
He's such a good ambassador for the brand. He's been associated with them for a long time, their chief driving instructor, but just such a proud ambassador for Mercedes AMG, and he's had the nickname Hollywood for a long time, has Peter Hackett. You can tell why. And it's no doubt, no wonder he's got a new sponsor into the sport. He can resist a smile like that when you rock into the boardroom.
It sounded a little bit like he was an investor in that brand.
Yeah,
so that's another story. And nearly every young race car driver has actually worked for him at some stage as well.
So the graphic bottom left of your screen shows you progress throughout the race and how many places they've picked up. So Fraser and Hackett are in the box seat. We're not done yet. We've got 8 minutes remaining. Second round of Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. This combination, Mostert and Liam Talbot, currently in second. And then the sister car with Jackson Evans, who's racing for Brad Jones in supercars as well, holding down the top three ahead of Brad Schumacher. And well done, Renee Gracie. She's held on to that 5th place, but it's a fast charging Brendan Leach who's up to 6th.
This is a huge drive from Renee, right in the mix, and that the rate that Brendan is getting to the back of the OnlyFans Audi, it's going to get down to the final lap, but it's going to be close for a top 5 finish. That'd be a huge drive.
Very well done. She's, you know, she's spoken publicly about the fact that she hasn't wanted to necessarily go back down the supercars path, that this was the direction she wanted to go. She returned to GT racing last year, was successful, and has stepped it up this season and paired with Paul Stokell. There's the car. Now, Paul might have helped set things up at the beginning, but she has continued to deliver here. Nice performance, position 5 right now.
This has been a mighty drive from Declan Fraser. He has gone toe-to-toe with Chaz Mostert. I know it hasn't been an all-out war. They haven't been trading paint or positions, but the intensity at the front is extremely high. And every time Mostert has just crept that Ferrari into the mix, Fraser's been able to respond. This has been mighty stuff.
And can I add to that Peter Hackett gave us an insight that the Ferrari doesn't have it its own way around here. There are weaknesses. He wouldn't tell us what they were on the coverage, but the Mercedes is certainly the dominant car here today.
Can we just put a question mark on that and say, for now, Adam de Boer, the team behind the scenes there at Arise Racing, they'll go and have a really good think about this tonight, and they've got some I mean, you detailed about the finite amounts that car requires in its setup window. If they can nail that tonight, they'll be good tomorrow.
And to that point, it was Adam de Boer that gave me that information when we were walking back up the lane. You know, I normally spend my time having a chat with someone, and Adam was the guy I was talking about. He said it is literally a millimetre, and we can throw it in or outside a window on a various turn here or there.
And the other point with the Ferraris is everywhere they go, it's the first time they've gone there with this car. They are starting from scratch. Now, they're getting customer racing support from Ferrari HQ and their GT program in Europe, but at the same time, you can only take so much out of a car set up for Mugello or Spa or wherever they might be racing in the States that's going to translate to Phillip Island or the Bend or wherever they might go. So this is learning, and you are right. They will nail what they've, or learn from what they've experienced today over a full race distance and the qualifying, and tune them up for tomorrow. So it could be a very different looking race tomorrow. That's the thing with GT3 racing, is that you've always got that little variability about it. You've got to get it right on the day or you're not going to win.
How come you broke into a little Italian then when you said Mugello?
How could you not?
Exactly. MotoGP there.
He's just becoming the Australian voice of GT racing globally, isn't he, Rusty, our good mate Richard Crail?
And a great season coming up for this class. We've got to remember it's early days in their 2024 Australian Championship. They have a festival at Phillip Island in August. It's going to be a good year. And we're at the moment enjoying 1 hour competition. They have some longer events to come too, don't they?
Sydney Motorsport Park will be a 3-hour Enduro, the second round of the Enduro Cup, which started at Mount Panorama at the 12-hour. So that's going to be spectacular. That'll be a very cool race.
I just want to jump in. So Jayden Ojeda is going to have the fastest lap of the race. He already holds it. Looks like he's going to go faster this one. But green for Chaz Mostert through the first and second sector. Green the last time around for the two drivers out in the front. They're turning it up now with 4 minutes remaining. The gap 2.8 seconds. But Chaz Mostert, he's coming.
And the battle for fifth will be on before the end of the race too, because it's now 1.2 seconds between Renee Gracie and Brendan Leach. So trying to get one extra position for the Dale ITM Audi. There they are. He's just got past Tony D'Alberto in the Adrian Dietz Lamborghini from Wall Racing. So this is on, and this is a championship. They had a very good weekend from a championship point of view, Tim Miles and Brendan Leach. So every single point counts. Brendan's off to the Spa 24-hour in a couple of weeks, just under 25 days till that race. He'll team up with Earl Bamber Motorsport and two-time Le Mans 24-hour winner Earl Bamber driving. So that's going to be a great experience for Brendan, but all his focus now is trying to get fifth position away from the similar Audi R8 in front. Good run out the final corner. Bit of a toe up the long front straight and then a braking duel into turn one, and he'll grab that spot. That's P5.
Just to illustrate your point too on the job that Declan Fraser is doing. He's been lighting up some personal bests on the timing monitor. As you would have seen bottom of your screen, the margin is now nearly 3 seconds between Fraser and Mostert. He's had a really good stint here. Renee Gracie resists that pressure from the Lamborghini.
How good is GT3 racing? So it was a Ferrari and an Audi at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Mercedes AMG with 2.5 minutes to go, leading here in the third race of the season. Variety is strong, and the three key brands in Australia at the moment are looking great. Always talk of different models and different brands making their way to this part of the world. We saw BMW on pole at Mount Panorama earlier this year. Wouldn't it be cool to see one of those cars racing in GT World Challenge Australia?
And let's not forget, circuit owners, the Sheehan family love this style of racing, don't they? I mean, of the many different combinations, there are 8 that they can choose from with this circuit itself. I mean, the 7.7K variety is ideal for GT machines, isn't it? So, but I'm not complaining because I love the bull ring style that we've got this weekend, the West Circuit.
And still fastest laps and sector times, and Brendan Leach is absolutely flying. He's on to set another quickest lap of the race. Jackson Evans to set a PB there in third. But this has turned into a bit of a track position race though, because they sort of got stuck in these positions and found it very difficult to gain any more ground. Evans has caught Mostert a little bit, so it's 4 seconds between the two Ferraris. So the Kiwi has gradually hauled his way back up to his teammate and continuing to do just a super job, Jackson Evans. He's racing a bit of everything. After the Perth round of the Supercars Championship, he jumped on a plane, flew to Spa, did 2 days of testing, flew back to race here in the Ferrari. Global motorsport icon, Jackson Evans, at the moment. It's crazy. He's everywhere. I don't know if he's ever been called an icon before, but I'm sure he'll take it.
There's a little bit of traffic now, starting to hold up potentially the 888 of Declan Fraser. That's going to hurt him a lot with Chaz Mostert coming. That hurt a lot. Luckily, I think Chaz got caught up in his own. Further back, to see the damage at the end of this sector. That was a decent squeeze, though, on the brake pedal for Declan Fraser. I reckon it was at least half a second.
I reckon you're right. I think Chaz had his own little battle to contend with. It dropped to about 2.4 seconds, but back out to 2.8 now. So both may have struck a little bit of trouble at the same time, traffic-wise.
It's going to be borderline getting to the line as the clock strikes to see whether we've got 1 or 2 to go That's one lap after the clock gets to 0, and I think the clock got to 0 as they got to the control line. So we'll confirm that for you.
Flash of lights from the Ferrari. Please, please, Marcini, let me through.
It was actually nearly 4/10. That's what it cost Declan Fraser that last time around. So that little squeeze, 4/10. He was lucky to get away with it because he had a buffer. 2.3 seconds the gap, and we've timed out.
Gee, this has been a good race for all sorts of reasons, and tomorrow there'll be stories to tell here once they reset those compensation times overnight. Those that have had some success, a bit of champagne on Saturday, will have a bit of a tougher battle on their hands come Sunday. But this is a tremendous story. Back to 2.5 seconds. Declan Fraser, a little bit more traffic, clears it easily. So it's Fraser from Mostert, Evans, Brad Schumacher, Leach ahead of Renee Gracie.
Next time by will be the last lap. They just got to the line before the clock struck 0. So there'll be 3.41 kilometres to go for this 23-year-old who was on the supercar pathway. He came out of Toyota 86 racing. He's back in endurance driver mode with Tickford Racing in the supercars, but out of a full-time ride. So instead has gone the GT pathway, and man, has he driven so well. And today he spent half an hour fending off one of the fastest drivers in Australia in Chaz Mostert, and certainly one of the fastest racing cars. And he has done it without blinking. 2 seconds exactly, Fraser to Mostert, with Evans now within 3.5 of Mostert. So he's cruised up to the 2 leaders as well. The Audi in 4th place, top of the German brand. In 4th, Will Brown behind the wheel with that car he shares with Brad Schumacher. And Brendan Leach, what a drive. He's going to lead with the quickest lap of the race. Unfortunately, that pit stop penalty probably cost them, Rusty, today. But I would suggest we watch the Dale ITM Audi R8 for tomorrow's race, when Brendan Leach will start and 10 miles will finish. What a drive this has been. Declan Fraser, 2 corners to go.
Yeah, I don't think Leach will catch Brown. We head for the finish line. This young man just managing it now. The margin's 2 seconds. Checkered flag awaits. Declan Fraser, Peter Hackett take out race 1 of the weekend. Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. From Mostert and Liam Talbot, Jackson Evans home, 2 Ferraris in the top 3. But it's the Mercedes AMG of Fraser and Hackett, and that smile for Peter Hackett will be, if at all possible, even wider now.
What a comeback it's been for Hollywood. What a drive it was for Decker. So Ferrari win race 1, Audi win race 2. The 3rd race of the year goes to Mercedes AMG. It's all locked up between the brands competing for GT World Challenge honours. There is a manufacturer's global crown at the end of the year as well that they all score points for, so they'll love that. There's Brendan Leach across the line, 5th position. Renee Gracie will be 6th at the end. That's been a super strong performance for those 2. And Alex Peroni, Rusty, after the drive-through early in the race for Mark Rosser, what a comeback that's been to get themselves well inside the top 10.
Quickest lap of the race too belongs to Brendan Leach. So it's been a heck of a fight from the Kiwi. He nearly got down into the 14s. It's a 1:15.033. Lots to unpack from this one. Good work by the Sheargold team. But I think it's Marcel Zalua that may have taken things out from an AM perspective. So there's a little bit to tell from that story there that we may not have seen in relation to the Sheargold entry. Here's your results. 1.9 in the end. Fraser and Hackett claim it from the Ferraris for Arise Racing. Now, Will Brown driving that Melbourne Performance Centre car that Brad Schumacher has campaigned so well. Those 2 have been a great combination so far this year, and we'll look forward to seeing what they deliver. And Leach in the end fighting back to 5th place in the car he shares with Tim Miles.
So well done Marcel Zalua and Sergio Perez. They get the AM class win, Rusty, but as you say, there'll be a bit of a question mark over what happened to Mike Sheargold at the end. So we'll get to the bottom of that. We're going to visit GWR and see what happened, having led the race outright at the start. And at the end, Valentino Astudi and Mike Bailey get the final position in the trophy class win. Highlights for Super Cheap Auto Club, the most loyal club you can find in race number 1 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. A race that simmered rather than boiled over but there was plenty of intrigue all the way through.
Tim Miles in the Dale ITM entry with the added penalty off the success in Phillip Island, fighting his way through the field. Paul Stokell was one of the real talking points early on, and so too was this combination. They were in the box seat until the pit stops rolled around. Very good performances.
This fight, the Aston and that orange Audi carved each other up for a majority of the race, and it was a good comeback from the Audi after that contact early on. So this was the rejoin. Gracie made up lots of track position through the pit stop shuffle after a brilliant start to the race by her co-driver in the form of Paul Stokell. But this consummate professional performance from Declan Fraser gave Mercedes AMG their first win of the year. The final margin, 1.9 seconds back to Chaz Mostert.
He's pretty happy about it too. Declan Fraser gets the hug from Peter Hackett.
That was mega. That's for you. That is so awesome. Like you had chat.
There you go. Talking about Chaz. Yeah, knew you had Chaz covered. So,
gee, you don't get told that very often, do you, Rusty?
Let's take you down now to Shannon's victory lane. Here's Sarah.
Declan Fraser, the winner of our Pro-Am class. Declan, first GT win. How did that feel?
Oh, yeah, it was unbelievable. Pete put us in a good spot straight away. So for me, it was just going out there and managing the gap. We managed to pull away from Chaz and got pretty lucky with the traffic. So, yeah, it's just so good to finally get back on top.
Yeah, you were fending off Chaz Mostert for most of that race, as we were saying, and you managed to just keep in front of him that whole time. What was your tactics in that?
Yeah, the biggest thing was just keeping my eyes forward and not trying to let him sort of, I guess, force me into a mistake. So came out of the pit stop pretty close to each other, but just managed to just keep going and building that gap. And yeah, to come away with the win second round in, I think it's, yeah, pretty happy.
Absolutely. I can see that you've got that smile all over your face. Thanks so much, Declan.
Celebrations begin, but they'll get to do it all again tomorrow. More GT3 racing to come your way on Sunday here from the Bend. We need a commercial break here on the Shannon Speed Series. Brock Gilchrist, the Kiwi, has pole position for Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge. They hit the track right after this.